Jeremy from jeremy.net. So, a couple of videos ago, I was showing you the process of me working on the ink drawing that you see on the left side of the screen. Now, when I finished that drawing, originally I was planning to, I don't know, maybe scan it in and do a digital painting of it. But in working on the artwork for this environmental drawing class, the instructor, John Messer, does a lot of beautiful watercolor paintings. And I decided I wanted to try to execute this as a watercolor piece. So instead of printing the ink drawing onto Bristol, I decided to just redraw a smaller composition of the same piece and do a watercolor painting on it. Now, it makes sense if you're painting to actually go larger and paint in a bigger, maybe 11 by 17 or a 12 by 18 piece, as opposed to doing something that's smaller than the 8.5 by 11 that the ink drawing is. But because it was an experiment, I thought, you know what, let me just do it small piece, kind of. Sometimes it's easier when you're experimenting with a new medium to do smaller works, just so you don't get caught up and lost in the detail or overwhelmed. I think that it's a good idea to be open to experimenting with different mediums. A lot of times, that's how I feel like I learn the most about my creative process. When you finish a painting, even if you really like the way it came out, a painting or an illustration, whatever, your mind is filled with all these multiple realities of what would this look like if I had turned this head this way instead of that? What would have happened if I had chosen to do a purple underpainting instead of a red? Well, if I chose to do it as a painting instead of an ink drawing? And a lot of times I realize I should be pursuing those other ideas. Like just doing it for me, whether it ends up that this is the final version or whether the ink piece is the final version, it doesn't really matter. Why not take a couple of different mediums and explore a piece all the way to its logical ending? I feel like I don't do this as much as I should, but when I have done it in the past, it teaches me a lot and helps me make better decisions about the pieces I make in the future in terms of what way I'm going to execute it. Or if I do want to do this in a specific medium, then things I need to keep in mind when I'm doing it. So this experimentation and changing and doing different processes and taking it all the way to conclusion of a finished piece is very worthwhile. I mean, that's not to say I still may go back at some point and do the ink drawing, do a digital painting underneath that and see how that goes. And so now I switched over to doing color thumbnails, which in recent months has become a very big thing for me. Really, I've learned so much more. Thumbnailing, you obviously know, is very, very important to me. I might as well just call my YouTube channel the Thumbnail Channel. But when I started moving from just doing thumbnails to work out the line and composition to doing tonal thumbnails to work out my lights and darks, then I thought, well, if I'm going to do a color piece, I still find myself doing a lot of fumbling around. If I'm doing a digital painting and I'm executing the final color in Photoshop, I still fumble around a lot. I still move stuff around, even if I've worked out the tonal values. And while it is true that if you've got solid tones that work, you can make a wide variety of color schemes work out, you can execute them pretty reasonably well if your lights and darks clearly describe the volumes and support the composition, divide your foreground, midground, background properly. Even if you have those things worked out, you can flounder a lot with color. And a lot of it just comes down to making decisions before you sit down and actually start doing it. And I've found that doing the color thumbnails really help out a lot with that. And they're pleasant to do. It's like, think about, sometimes there's artists who just do doodling all the time and never do finished pieces. And there's artists who do nothing but finished pieces and don't get that much time to just sit and play. And I find that for me, thumbnailing, that might be part of the reason why I enjoy it so much, is because it really feels like the fun part of the picture making. I enjoy laying down a final ink line. I enjoy the way that a piece comes out, working out the color, but it can be a little bit tedious. Whereas thumbnailing is really creativity in its rawest form. It's where you're making shit up, and I love to make shit up. So that's really fun for me. I enjoy that. With all those thumbnails that I did, I tried to work out kind of the full options of foreground, background, warm colors, cool colors. And when I got here and started painting it in, Looking at this video now, I didn't think about this at the time I was doing it, otherwise I may have changed a little bit more, or I might have even started over. But my handling of the watercolor is very patchy. And part of that is due to the fact that I really haven't used watercolor in probably over 10 years. So it's going to take me a while to get back into this, but it doesn't have the nice, fluid, smooth backgrounds that watercolors tend to be known for. So I am looking forward to doing more watercolor work, if for no other reason than to gain a little bit more facility and control with the medium. It's kind of nice to play with it, and I always enjoy growing and learning and trying new things, and you should too, because it'll make you a better artist, make you a better creative person altogether. That's it for now. You can check out my website, jeremy.net. That's GERIMI.net. That's where you can buy my comic books and artwork. You can also sign up for my free weekly newsletter to get a behind-the-scenes look at my creative process, updates on new comic books and artwork releases, and upcoming comic book convention appearances. Okay, go be creative.